Everyone, welcome back to the Filibusted. I'm Jason.
And I'm Michelle. Today's episode is titled Fact Check and Furious.
That's right, we're pulling no punches as we dive into the double standard of social media giants.
Exactly. And these platforms love it when readers add community notes to back up their narratives. But when the tables turn and they get fact checked, suddenly it's a whole different ballgame.
Get ready for a no-holds-barred discussion as we unpack the hypocrisy and explore how these inconsistencies affect all of us.
So buckle up. This conversation is going to get fiery. Let's get into it.
Yep, so this all got precipitated with Elon Musk recently saying that he wants to, quote, fix community notes. This article that I'm reading, it's on Ars Technica, actually said that it was because they contradicted Trump. If I recall correctly, it was also after he got in a fight with a lot of astronauts for some reason. I don't generally pick on people that spend the majority of their time flying into space and doing amazing things, but I am also not the richest man in the universe. So there we go. I guess he doesn't believe that crowdsourcing fact-checking through community notes can be manipulated. And he said on Twitter, it's increasingly being gamed by governments and legacy media working to fix this. So the way I understand community notes to work is that any user can a community note. And I'm of the opinion that you already know my stance on this. I think some people shouldn't have a platform because there's a lot of just fucking nonsense on the internet today. There's a lot of people saying stupid shit. And instead of doing the research for themselves and fact checking these claims online, other people just repeat said stupid shit. And it spreads like wildfire across the internet. And then all of a sudden, people are taking hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, and Fauci is the devil, and Bill Gates is microchipping us and creating new super mosquitoes that are going to cause us all to grow devil horns and unleash the apocalypse on Earth. And I fucking hate it. I hate this timeline. I hate the dumb shit that people are allowed to spout on the internet. But at its core, I'm very fond of fact-checking. You know me, I like to do my research. I like to look stuff up. I like giving people tools they can use to look stuff up. I like making things easy to understand. I like making things that are easy for people to consume in ways that they are able to consume them. I try not to overcomplicate things. So I'm a big fan of fact-checking. I think there's value in community notes because in social media, you have people from a broad range of backgrounds. You have experts in different fields. But on the flip side, you also have a lot of bot farms. You have Russian disinformation campaigns. You have people who will say anything for clicks and engagement, karma farming. So I think it's something that's got to be handled very, very carefully. I do like the ones that have sources. And if people are so inclined, they can click the link that's provided in the community note and they can go check the veracity for themselves. But part of me wonders, at the speed in which news travels these days, by the time somebody does a tweet that's full of disinformation, I am not on Twitter all that much. How long does it even take for a community note to show up? How long is that disinformation even on Twitter before somebody gets around to fact checking it? And then once somebody fact checks it, how long does it take for it to get approved to be a community?
Yeah, no, I think you bring up some really good points there. So so I have a stance, known this for a very long time. I am a freedom, I believe in the freedom of speech, like people have the right to go out there and act like an idiot and be laughed at like they're an idiot. But however, you make a really good point about disinformation. Where do we cross the line that it's no longer about just having this ability to say something without, receiving punishment? Because one, they're saying it on platforms that are privately owned businesses. They're applications. It's not like they're going out here and, saying it to like a news reporter or something and then getting in trouble by the government, and being deplatformed is not the same, as consequences for saying something stupid on the internet. But you're making a valid point with how fast, information moves nowadays. How can we proactively do this? And we're talking not just about on social media with bots and all this. We're even talking about like on TV, on legacy media. Like, where are our fact checks there? Could you imagine somebody having like some type of like running stream across the bottom of Fox News As if they're spouting their nonsense of what's actually, true, what's false. What would that take to even get something like that implemented? But, going back to like, when does it cross a line? I think if you start infringing on somebody else's rights is when it no longer becomes free speech. It then becomes something else. And I think we're going to have to visit this as a, we're still a young nation. And I think people forget that. You've got, Europe, all the countries in Europe and everything that they've had, much longer in civilization than we have. And, we're still developing as a young nation. So what was true 100 years ago may not be true now, because you have to look around at the circumstances. And I don't always agree with like how much the UK does, preventing misinformation. Sometimes they do go a little overboard. They do kind of overstep the toe and stuff like that. But then again, they have an idea of holding people accountable when you go out there and you say dumb shit like Alex Jones. It should not have taken what it did to get that man deplatformed, all those parents from, the kids from Sandy Hook. Like, that shouldn't have been a thing. The second he said gay frogs on the internet or on that show, boom, should have been yanked. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, it was ridiculous. And to frame it as entertainment. Exactly. Like, the fact it came out in a green suit with like there's a point where we say, oh, no, this is not okay. And it should be true across all of it. I believe there should be certain framing with like satire and stuff like that or all that. But we're just gonna have to figure it out. We have the technology rolling up. There needs to be fact checking on everything now. And if you are a mass spreader of disinformation, Trump, with your 35,000 lies, maybe, just maybe, you don't get a platform anymore. Like, that seems to be like that final resolution of you can't stop lying. You don't get a public place to do this anymore. And social media platforms, and really any platform that provides any type of, access for someone to upload a video, a podcast, or that, I think that they have some due diligence here of providing something to to provide them with the most up-to-date information, especially if the claim of that is not entertainment and branded as such. They're branded as news or somebody you would go to expecting a piece of actual real information.
No, for sure. And allowing people unfettered access to just kind of say what they want. I mean, like Alex Jones and the gay frogs thing, like that could have led to some seriously difficult conversations between Piggy and Kermit. Nobody has to defend from a position of falsehoods. How do you prove a negative? And talking about the speed at which disinformation travels, I think about this interaction that Elon Musk had with our old transportation secretary, Pete Buttigieg, back when Hurricane Helene hit back in October. And you don't think about how quickly this information can travel on the internet, how widespread it gets. But Elon had tweeted out, just received this text 20 minutes ago. The level of belligerent government incompetence is staggering. And it was a message talking about how people are shutting down the airspace to regulate the private choppers they're riding in to deliver Starlink and supplies, yada, yada, yada. That was viewed 29 million times. Buttigieg obviously responds, says no one's shutting down the airspace, and the FAA doesn't block legitimate rescue and recovery flights. If you're encountering a problem, give me a call. By the time Elon retracted anything, and it wasn't even a retraction, it was kind of a half-ass acknowledgement that it's not happening. But his tweet that said, "Thanks for helping simplify the FAA NOTAM. Support flights are now underway. Much appreciated." 985,000 people saw. And that's official Twitter statistics. What's on his actual tweets?
Yeah. And that's it. And that's the thing too, is they have a great way of throwing out disinformation, and they've controlled the narrative for so long. But if we're talking about fact checkers and stuff like that, this thing of getting away from it, more people should have balked when like JD Vance was like, wouldn't come do a debate with Tim Walz unless they wouldn't fact check him. So I'm going to lie, and you're not allowed to tell me I'm lying. And that should like make people go, oh my God, like sit there and they should have done it anyway. They should have done it or said, hey, look, you just don't have a platform then to come and do this. This is how we run our business. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else. But we're going to allow this person, they're going to get national TV time. And guess what? You're not going to be able to say your side. You're not going to get this. And that's essentially what's going to happen is there's going to have to be some regulations to these businesses, to these news outlets, to people who provide something outside of an opinion where they are going to be held to a certain standard, whether they're going to have information flowing and stuff like that. And it's going to have to be regulated. That's technology is going to have to keep up with how fast that happens too, because the second you send out a tweet, it almost should, or any type of message, any type of thing, it should go almost through an uploading period where it just takes a few, like a minute or two. I mean, that's I guess the plus side of AI, is these are things you could, essentially program in, look for keywords, look for phrases, links and stuff. And then if it's linked to maybe a fact or something like that, it's just really hard with like memes with pictures because AI can't read those yet. So how do you get it to read words on a, picture file if they're going to do it like that too? So that's a tough one, but I do believe that things should be fact checked. And that ultimately is what's gotten us into most of this situation now is all the disinformation and the fact that people have had access. We've had computers, at least home computers, since the mid-90s. It's been almost 30 years. People know how to use Google, and they just won't. They just don't.
No, they don't. And going back to the JD Vance thing, I almost feel like the blowback from that wasn't severe enough because not only did he refuse to, from my understanding, I can't remember who refused or not. I can't believe that was just like some underhanded deal or under the table deal or whatever. But the fact that they would agree to not fact check anybody to begin with is absurd. I mean, we all know politicians fudge the truth, they lie, they take credit for stuff, it maybe happened in the prior administration. They do all these things, we're all aware of this. Like, I don't think anybody's under the assumption that politicians aren't lying, but when they get egregious enough to where they break their own rule and they fact check you at the debate, for you to have the gall to then say, well, first of all, I thought we weren't going to be fact checked tonight. Like, I wanted unfettered access to lie about every single thing you're asking me up here. This is bullshit. What happened? It feels like there wasn't enough blowback from that. And then, of course, we had the subsequent Trump and Kamala debate where, we had the famous, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets, both of them around the Springfield, the Asian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And that's so dangerous too, especially coming from him. And then Trump's been up here just recently sitting there trying to say that Ukraine started the war with Russia. Like, we're all mindless idiots and we don't know how this started. It's just, it's crazy to me that his base, like this is why Elon called him stupid. Like he did. This is why he got on Twitter and said, you are all dumb. Like, because that is a true statement. They take every new thing that's been said as the new fact. They don't ever go, wait a second. That's not what he said last week or 2 months ago. Even though they may have been like 10 minutes earlier grandstanding about the said thing. And I'm like, how do you function as a human being in society?
Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. Marjorie Taylor Greene fell down that QAnon hole before she was in Congress. And
Jewish space lasers.
Famously, there's satellites controlled by the Rothschilds, and they may in fact be causing these California wildfires. And so that materialized into her jibber-jabbering about Jewish space lasers, essentially, because that's what she was describing. It's like the Rothschilds had their own Death Star.
Didn't she just recently double down and say Democrats could control the fucking weather? Like double down on it, like tripled down. She said it multiple times.
She is very, very confused.
Once again, I'm like, bitch, if we control the damn weather, don't you think we would have made it
about
rain?
Cloud seeding? Well, the thing that kills me is she's like, the government can control the weather. I'm like, bitch, you are the government. Go find the guy. Go find the guy who pushes the button. Go fucking find him and tell him to seed.
I know. It's almost like when they're like, the deep state. And I'm like, you are the deep state. You had control of the government, you ding-dong.
Right? I'm like, is there some fucking nook and cranny where some guy's sitting here with a fucking control panel and he's got a button and it's like, start hurricane, and that does a prompt, and he's like, what states do you want to hit? Do you want
Like
primarily
old
Republican
DDoS.
demographics or Democrat demographics?
They're on old DDoS prompt, like /run.
Like when
Start
they hand
hurricane.
out committee assignments during the start of every Congress, why did you push to get on that one?
I know, right? Like why can't you weaponize this and like take down, your opponents? Like it's so ridiculous. The things that they ingest and then just like vomit back, just and it's weaponized. It's aggressive. It's aggressive idiocy. It reminds me of Idiocracy. God, what's his name? Dax? Is it Dax?
Dax Shepard, yeah.
Dax Shepard, yeah. And he's like, in the way he acts, where he's just like, if he gets like when he was getting challenged, he's just like, dumbass, and like, went to go hit and push and stuff. And I'm like, this is it. This is exactly what their mindset is. And oh my God, what has happened here,
That's it. And what I struggle with is how do you fact check whether they're just ignorant and stupid or doing this intentionally to sow discord among their base and their constituents, right? Because like take COVID, for example, all the vaccine hesitancy that's going on. We've all seen rises in measles outbreaks and whooping cough. You and I have both seen videos of babies with whooping cough. It's the most horrible fucking thing you could ever hear. Nobody wants to see a kid like that, not be able to catch their breath because they're fucking coughing like there's no tomorrow. And vaccine rates are declining. People are so fucking crazy because of this bullshit that's been propagated for the past decade where they're like, vaccines are making your kids autistic, when it's been studied over and over and over and over again and debunked, and people have lost their licenses over this bullshit narrative. But still, COVID comes out and they're like, COVID's giving you myocarditis and you're going to die. I'm like, well, okay, it's like all your medication. Yeah, that's a side effect, but you still won't die from COVID. And that's the point. And you have a higher likelihood of getting COVID while unvaccinated and it being more severe than you do of having myocarditis from a vaccine.
Correct, yeah.
This anti-science phase we're in the year of our Lord 2025, we're like fucking cavemen. And we're like, fire burn, bad.
I posted about this the other day. I told people, I was like, with RFK getting confirmed, I said, you guys have no idea. Like most people don't get on the dark side of the internet. Normally they stay in like the puppy kitty cat. I mean, I'm not talking about Twitter and that cesspool there. I'm talking about actually on the other side of the internet. You hear whisperings about it. Most people know what Black Sab is and stuff like that. That stuff that people put on skin, like literally will burn a hole through your skin. Most people have heard about that. But like there's this whole like woo-woo science side of the internet that's pretty nasty. I mean, I'm talking about like bleach enemas, turpentine. There was one that was drinking nasty, rotten salt water, saying it'll like make them live forever. And the worst part was it wasn't just salted, rotten cabbage water. It was overtly salted cabbage water. Like we're talking about like death levels, and they would drink so much of that water. It was literally killing a bunch of people. And it was insane. And people don't realize that. And I hate to say it, but social media gave these ding dongs a platform to then go and sell their woo woo. Hey, don't believe your doctors, don't believe in modern medicine, believe me. And I'm some stranger on the internet. Here, come drink this concoction every day and die of, too much salt in your body, or drinking turpentine or all that. And it's insane to me, the people that just like buy into that. And I'm like, I believe in homeopathic has its place. It does. It is a great supplement to modern medicine. It's like drinking some hot honey tea with some lemon. We all know that it makes your throat feel better and all that, but we also know it doesn't actually cure. If you like have a bacterial infection, the actual bacterial infection, you need to take your medicine too. Like it's to work in conjunction. Same with like, if you have like you've hurt your back, yes, it may be good to stretch and do some stuff at home, but if it continues to hurt, you need to go see the damn doctor. You don't just like keep doing the woo-woo shit. hoping that your body will heal correctly. Like, that's just not it. And it's so damn dangerous, and it is so irresponsible. And then this rolls back to like being a part of a community, being part of society. You do have a moral obligation as being a member of society. So like, fuck libertarians, like get over yourself, come back to society, because you do benefit off of it. All these tankies and communists, come on back. We're not there. You can think about the ideology, but reality is you live in a society where we are all one, and there's this life cycle within society that everybody participates in. If you don't want to be a part of society and you want to be an outlier, then you need to take your ass out into the middle of the woods and not live off anything that is provided by the actual society. Roads, emergency services, electricity, like those things go in a cycle there. And so there's this moral obligation of doing right by society, by getting your inoculations, getting your, wearing a mask if you're sick. Like, even like, let's take your Asian countries. Japan's a really good one. They wear a mask if they don't think they feel good, because they do it for the old people and the young. Like, that's easy. Like, it's does not hurt them to put on a mask if they're maybe have a stuffy or runny nose, or they just don't feel good. They're like, man, I don't want to spread this.
It's respect for their elders, right? Elders are
Yeah.
going to be more vulnerable. They can be immunocompromised. And that's what puzzled me during COVID, was everybody takes the masks and the social distancing, the shutdown of the economy as this great infringement on their rights and their freedoms. And that was just the wrong way to look at it.
Yeah.
The right way to look at it was, you're not doing it because you're a fit Chad alpha male in your 20s and you fucking run marathons. It's for the 98-year-old Meemaw who's currently undergoing cancer treatments and is immunocompromised and could fucking die because you couldn't bother to put a fucking piece of cotton over your face.
Yeah, and then that's what gets me about this party of pro-life. Like, bullshit. You are forced birth. Just go ahead and say it. That's all you want. Because if that was the truth, if that was true, they would be wearing their masks. They would be going to get all their boosters for, everything that's out there, because they wouldn't want to potentially infect a young mom who, what if she has a baby in, that delivered early and it's in the NICU, and bringing whooping cough or anything like into that area. Like, that's like, it just blows my mind that the party of pro-choice is more socially, conscious about everybody else first, and not just myself first and my feelings and stuff like that. And then they project onto us. But yes, there is a social obligation when you live in a society, when you participate, when you use communal. And that's what they forget, is like, this is a community. Those things outside your door are no longer yours. It's not just your freedoms. It is everyone's freedoms. It's everyone's rights when you walk outside your door. And you are part of that everyone, but you have a social obligation to ensure everyone is protected just as much as yourself. And so I think that's where we get into countries like Japan, where they do have a high level of like social awareness, social obligation. That's why they're very quiet on public, transportation. That's why they're very, like there's certain seats people just don't sit in. But you come here in the US and like, that's not the same. And somebody will like get aggressive with you about it. And it's like, hey, we live in a society. Like, this is part of living in a society. And they just double down. It's gross.
Yeah, it is. And while we're in a potentially devastating bird flu pandemic, we just confirmed a man who admits he had brainworms. And then I tried to not watch Roseanne Barr's podcast, but I did watch her interview with Bobby Kennedy Jr. And he told the bear story. And
oh, gross.
And I can't help but think to myself, as he recounts the story of going falconeering or whatever the fuck with his buddies, which I can't think of any more like spoiled rich kid shit to do than falconeering.
Pretentious.
Right? Like, you can't get more pretentious than, let me go grab my falcon for a bit of falconeering or whatever the fuck they're doing. And stopping because he sees a dead bear on the side of the road. And you know what he thinks? I should bring that home and eat it. Like, is that how you got the fucking brainworm? Like,
Probably.
why would you tell anybody this story? Like, I know there's a roadkill cafe, but I'm pretty sure they just sell cheeseburgers. Like, I can't think of anybody that's like, you know what, that fucking run over bear with its brains leaking out looks
Yeah.
pretty fucking tasty.
Unless you were here in the South, and then that might be
100%. And then off the cuff, he's like, I was going to bring it home and put it in my fridge to eat it because you can do that in New York State. And I'm like, why do you fucking know this offhand? Like, do you pour over like state laws and be like, what if one day I happen to find a dead bear on the side of the road and I want to come home and fucking eat it? Can I do that?
Well, everything they say is an admission, so it sounds to me like he needed plausible deniability on killing a bear. I found it on the side of the road. That fucking Temu Zordon.
Well, my favorite part is he goes out to dinner with this bear carcass in his fucking car or tied to the roof. Where do you put a fucking bear carcass? Like, they're big. Bears are big. Where the fuck do you put it?
It was a bear cub, I thought. Wasn't it pretty, like, a smaller one? Like, I don't think it was like a grizzly bear, but yes, you're still probably looking at something that's like at least 200 pounds.
Yeah, like, where do you put it? You stuff it in the trunk? You just break bones until it fits?
I know.
But then he overstays this dinner, I guess. They have some drinks, as people are wont to do when you have a bear carcass in your fucking car. And then the dinner goes too long, and he realizes that he's got to get to the fucking airport because this day was very busy. You wake up and you go falconeering. You find a bear carcass. You strap it to your car, then you go have dinner and drinks with friends, and then all of a sudden you got to go to the fucking airport. Like, did you leave the bear carcass in your car overnight? Like, how long was this fucking dinner? And so he can't leave his car in, like, long-term parking with a bear carcass because people are going to fucking wonder about the smell. So he drops it in Central Park. Like,
Yeah,
what the fuck?
and that speaks back to that level of pretentious. So he, being a nasty little fuck to begin with, picks up a bear carcass, puts it in his car. Now it's sitting in, whatever, untold heat and all this other stuff. Drives around, goes to eat dinner, comes back, and it's got to really be stinking. Then the asshole goes, oh shit, I need to dump this thing. Let me make it someone else's problem. Let me make it the city's problem. Like, the city should have fined the shit out of him. Like, the second they found that out, they should have held his ass accountable. But that boils down to being rich. That boils back down to these people with where we have set this standard for people with a name or people with money, that they live by different rules than the rest of us. Me or you, we would have been carted off to jail. We would have been like put across the news, our mug shots. Like, people would have had stories for days about the crazy people who picked up, roadkill on the side of the road, forgot about it in their car, and went, oh shit, we got to go somewhere. Just dump this thing out in the middle of the town and then head on out. Like we would have been tarred and feathered and pushed out the door, any place we live. So, like, it's crazy to me. And then they get away with everything, they do. Like, let's look at Trump. Let's look at everything he's done. It's minor slaps on the wrist. And I'm always amazed, absolutely amazed at the different standard. And then, and even back to Elon, like, I know he owns, Twitter. I know he owns that. And I'm not going to fucking call it X. It's Twitter. And I know he owns it. So I know technically he can do whatever he wants on there. But he's just so brazen. And everybody just accepts it as that's okay. And it's not. And I stopped using it way before he purchased it. Like, I haven't been on there in like forever. And I hate, even like pseudo logging in with like a burner account just to like check stuff out. But then that's why I really found a lot of other people or third party apps to like pull information from there. I just don't want to give that man a dime. It just amazes me that like our world leaders are still on there. I was very happy that people are going over. Like, we use Blue Sky app, and more people going over there. It's so much better. You have the block feature and everything else, but like just there's still people on there, and I'm like, just let it become Truth Social. Just let them have their little echo chamber, because they're still going to mute your voices. They're still going to do these things community notes, he doesn't want them. I think we were talking about this earlier, and you said, he's trying to get rid of them. And we saw Zuckerberg. I closed out all my Facebook stuff. I don't have anything with Facebook, and Instagram and all that other stuff. And I don't want any part of a social media platform that will not do its due diligence and call out blatant corruption. Like, obviously, you're not going to be able to stamp out every single little thing, but the big ones that are just complete fabrication should always have something that provides factual information and has something that stamps it like as fake or true.
Yeah, and it's really hard to get around it. I was reading an article on pointer.org today, and the article I think was from 2023, but it kind of explained a little bit about community notes and kind of how they started. Obviously, it started pre-Elon. It used to be called Birdwatch. And then, of course, Musk renamed it because he's a fucking crazy weirdo. Apparently, now this article is probably out of date. It came out in 2023. But apparently, there are 133,000 community notes users. And they didn't clarify if that's people who do community notes, people who have been community noted. It doesn't really kind of get into that. But they admit it's been kind of a lackluster program. And some of the numbers they came up with is Twitter users have written roughly 122,000 community notes over the course of the program. But evidently not all of them are shown publicly. And this is something that I didn't know. But regular Twitter users can only see around 10,400 of them, which is roughly 8.5%. And he announced this at something called Global Fact 10, which is the world's largest fact-checking summit. Is it the largest because it's the only one? Because I've never heard of such a thing. But evidently it is a thing. Right? So evidently there's a process before they can put a community note up. So there is like a little bit of vetting. So before a community note can be seen publicly, apparently Twitter relies on ratings from other community notes users who could read the notes and then evaluate whether the notes cite high quality sources or easy to understand, provide important context, and stuff like that. And if the notes get enough ratings stating they're helpful, they're more likely to be displayed publicly, but that's still not even the only requirement for a note to become public. It also has to be accepted by a consensus of people from all across the political spectrum. And in today's day and age, that seems to be happening less and less. Like, there is not a ton of agreement across the political spectrum anymore. It seems we're more divided than ever before. So I feel like a suspension of disbelief is required to believe that any community note gets posted at this point. But evidently, thanks to a Twitter user named the Ellipsoid, there is a website that actually tracks them now.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see Twitter's most community noted people. And it is littered with right-wing accounts. There's Ian Miles Chong, who's super right-wing. He got in this weird discussion with Elon Musk about Grand Theft Auto. Play it because it made you kill cops. It's a super weird and cringy discussion. I couldn't play Grand Theft Auto 6 because you had to kill police, or I couldn't play Grand Theft Auto whatever number because you had to kill police officers and I just couldn't do it. I'm like, do you think it's like a fucking, like, are you a drone pilot? Like, if you kill them in the game, they die in real life? Like, how do you think this fucking thing works? I'm too moral to even kill cops in video games. I'm like, all right, sure you are. But then, of course, Laura Loomer, my favorite, I fucked up my face forever and a day, has been actually number 21 on the list. Then you've got somebody named Liz Churchill. She posts a lot of weird health shit from what I can see. Like a lot of weird fucking anti-vax shit that is...
Yeah, that's probably a taste into the dark side. Like, it gets a lot darker than what they put up because obviously you have stuff that's going to check them.
Yeah. There's a lot of weird shit. Just put up something. Vaccines are designed to cause cancer by muting your P53 gene as you're injected with SV with the sole purpose of depopulation, creating $1 trillion chemotherapy pharmaceutical injury. That is so fucking batshit crazy. Like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, where do people find this shit?
You need chiropractors. I mean, literally, that is who've been the forefront of all the anti-vax bullshit is chiropractic, because no legit doctor is willing to put like their license on the line. Now, with RFK in there and him tearing down like the CDC and stuff like that, I do see potentially because like all licenses, those are issued by the state. So in red states, I could see where a medical doctor is going to start talking this nonsense. Because in red states, they're allowed to put your life at risk based on their own personal beliefs. I know this for a fact because when I was in Oklahoma back in the early 2000s, I almost died because my OBGYN, my gyno, I had an ectopic pregnancy and she wouldn't do an abortion, so she wouldn't go in and do anything. She just let me pass it. And my tooth could have burst. I could have started bleeding internally. Luckily, that did not happen, but it's had its long-term effects. And, that was all based on her beliefs, not what was best for me. So I could see this becoming an issue in red states as they further start to, erode away the very government agencies that prevent this kind of bullshittery, because now it'll be left up to the state. And we know red states, as is, don't always make the best decisions. That's why they require the most funding, is because they are mismanaged and have high levels of fucking corruption. It's insane. So it's absolutely insane.
You can look on the bright side though, because now that RFK Jr. is in charge of public health, I am sure that every American will be getting a free anus crystal in the mail. And you'll just have to slide that deep into your butt and you will be healed from everything that ails you.
Is this like the new Scientology that's going to keep the body thetans away?
Your body thetans must absorb the crystal's energy through your anus, and you must also drink the salty fermented cabbage water to soak the crystal and all its salty goodness, and then poop it out one day.
What if they're gonna make oh god, what's her face, old goop lady?
That lady's so fucking weird.
Yeah, God, what is her name?
I shit out something that looks like my intestinal wall. Oh, that's just the parasites that the salty cabbage water are bleeding out.
No, goop. What's her face?
Gwyneth Paltrow did the goop.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Her, yeah. I wonder if they're gonna make her like the Queen Mother.
They might, but I think she's gonna have to branch out. I think she only does vagina crystals right now. She doesn't have the market on anus crystals cornered. The booty crystal is a Bobby Kennedy special, apparently.
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow wants you sticking them in a different hole.
Yeah.
Men don't have that hole.
For your butthole. Some steamies and crystals for your butthole. That's what RFK is going to be selling us.
Gwyneth Paltrow is gonna slowly depopulate all the white cis men by not providing booty crystals, and then we're all gonna die. It'll be terrible.
God.
Bobby Kennedy will be our savior with our booty crystals. Elon Musk, 43 on the leaderboard chart for his community notes. Now, some of his most recent ones, I think you saw that, he's very fond of using the R word now.
Yeah, and he doesn't get to use autism as his crutch. That really pisses me off. That this isn't something he gets to co-op, because outside of his parents saying he was autistic, I don't think he's ever got an official medical diagnosis. I might be wrong, but as far as I know, it's always a defense. He doesn't ever lead with it, if that makes sense. It's more of I'll just excuse him. He has a little touch of autism, and it's no. That you don't get to use that as a shield. That's like the buffet Christians. But I'm a good Christian.
Oh, yeah.
Using that
Those
as
are
a
my
shield.
favorite.
Yeah. No. You're a shit human. You're a fucking trash bag. You're a trash bag human. You're a whole ass dumpster fire. Go that way. You don't get to use that as a shield. That's not your weapon. That's not your shield. Get on out of here with that bullshit. And that's exactly what he does with autism. So he doesn't get to co-opt the R word for that, with the counterclaim that he has autism. That's throwing that out there right now. That's not an excuse. My oldest son has autism, and we're not playing that game. He would never do any of the shit that Elon's doing. But I also raised him not to be a little psychopath. So there we go.
I don't think he's ever sig-eiled, right? I don't think he's ever accidentally sig-eiled people in a presidential inauguration either. I don't think he's ever even waved his hand that way.
No, he hasn't. He's had some pretty serious, like times where he's been pretty stressed out, and then it's never or super excited, and it's never caused him to do anything in that shape or fashion or form, and
Are you
none of the
sure?
children. Yeah, I'm
I'm
pretty
given to
sure.
understand accidentally signaling is like an autistic thing, like a super autistic trait.
Yeah, I don't know, and not doing it twice, and would not cause him to think that microdosing ketamine is a fantastic thing. I think what we're dealing with is somebody who is just a very big giant narcissist. He is probably has more of like he's emotionally stunted more than he has autism. Like I think that's just more of not being socialized appropriately and mommy and daddy issues. Mommy and daddy didn't love me enough. I don't know what it would do to a child's psyche just being like shoved off into a boarding school when you're one far too young. And then I'm sure he really got put through the ringer because he's a little pretentious ass. I mean, no offense. I mean, I don't like judging children, but like my soul, as I watched his son in that, when they were giving the speech and everything, being raised in the South, my soul left my body for that child because all I saw was like my grandmother coming up out of the grave and like what she would have done had any of her grandchildren done that. Like the
Are you
shoes that
talking
would have
about when
been
he was
thrown.
shit talking people in the Oval Office during that interview?
Oh my god, and that shows you what he's exposed to, because children aren't inherently bad kids, they aren't. They are a product, really of their environment and how they're raised, and that shows you exactly what's going on, because they are so honest. They're like little drunks, little belligerent drunks that are just, like, 100% honest. I look at you and go, "What's wrong with your face?"
Yeah. Make no mistake,
Yeah.
little X fucking calculus, algebraic equation, polynomial fucking 12 or whatever his name is a fucking grade A shit talker for being 4 years old.
But
You
he's
shush your
learning.
mouth. You're not the
Yeah.
president. Get the fuck out. Or whatever he said.
I want you to shush your mouth. Like and that shows you right there that like the environment that he's raised in, and then that so that tells me there's this level of like I'm allowed to talk to people like that. I'm allowed to treat people like that because I see my people around me treating others like that. I mean, yes, they are little mirrors at that age and will absolutely 100% you know uh, uh um repeat and copy and mimic exactly what they're exposed to, whether it be on TV or anything else like that. So it is absolutely no doubt in my mind that he is being exposed to this stuff and this way of thinking that, there are no consequences. You can talk to people however you want and all this. And that goes back to, Elon, he's maladjusted. That's probably the best way to put it. He's just maladjusted. And
I'm
he
starting to think
is
he's trying to get back to Mars. I don't think he's trying to populate Mars. I think he's trying to get back. Like he got fucking stranded here long ago.
he's a narcissist. He's a maladjusted narcissist. So most narcissists can pretend enough. And I just think he has gotten so high, sniffing his own fucking farts for so long and microdosing ketamine, the mask has slipped all the way off. And he is like using this almost like Trump, like him and Trump are like two peas in a pod.
There,
Two
it's so gross.
very like maladjusted little white boys who got told they were extra special growing up, that they were better than everybody else, and then just fed money from their parents until they kind of got successful, but nobody actually recognizes their success. Maybe people below them, but not like they're what they would consider their peers. And so this is like their redemption in some weird way, of showing everyone around them, you see, look, I am the best, I am the coolest, I am the most awesome, and they don't care what they burn down, who they hurt, what happens, and at the end of the day, we're all going to be just casualties of their war, of
100%.
whatever that may be.
100%. 100%. Elon is like the weirdest, cringiest fucking nerd loser I've ever seen. And I am a nerd. And I enjoy being a nerd. I make no bones about it. I'm a fucking geek. But Elon has to be the cringiest fucking tryhard that I've ever seen. Like the thing I don't understand, like you're worth fucking $400 billion or whatever the fuck you're worth. You care so fucking much about what everybody on your platform thinks of you that it just turns you into this colossal fucking tryhard, and you're like, I'm gonna be a fucking Nazi to all these people at the inauguration. I am meme. I'm like, you are ketamine on fucking your big ass fucking sunglasses and shit. I now fucking dilated your pupils are. He's just like that cringy fucking jump that he does at fucking campaign events and stuff. Everybody's like always trying to make the letter X. I'm like, it ain't that fucking hard. You can do a standard jumping jack and make an X. Like, how fucking difficult is it? But he jumps like this weird cringy loser that always got thick glass for kickball, or probably didn't play sports. That fucking Cybertruck shaped motherfucker. He does not look. Oh,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's just trying to get back to Mars. Like, we've got alien technology with SpaceX. And he's like, sooner or later, I'd be back on my home planet. And he's just, he's trying to repopulate it with these fucking half Martian, half Earthling hybrids. That's why he's got 87,000 kids and fucking 23,000 baby mamas or whatever he's up to now.
Yeah, it's that was a whole set of drama on Twitter too the other day with between Grimes, couldn't get a hold of him while they were doing Nazi shit at CPAC, and because that's all that was between him and Bannon. God, that's a whole other level of like a rodeo right there. Who can be the best freaking Nazi? I guess it was Bannon's turn, by the way, to do the Sea Kyle and on a TV, because he's like, no, Elon, you got to do yours. Now it's my turn. Daddy Trump needs to see I'm the biggest Nazi.
It's like their secret handshake to be in the club, and I'm like, you realize you got your asses kicked in like 1940.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just between that and that one that's the right winger that everyone's like clutching their pearls, going, "What do you mean you're not a ultra conservative like you said you are?" They're MAGA, they're lying. None of those motherfuckers are ultra conservative. Anyway, was she like the last baby mama? And she was like, Elon, you need to contact me, blah, 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 blah. And then Grimes, like, hey, I've been trying to get hold of you. It seems like the only way I can is through social pressure. And if that's the way I've got to do it, this is the way it's got to be done. And then he goes in and he mutes her like.
Right. Allegedly, that one was because one of his shoulders having a health crisis. He's like, I'm too busy waving this chainsaw on stage that my idol from Argentina, who drove their poverty rate up to 50%, gave me.
I know, going, or whatever.
I'm too busy being a
was.
cringy loser for all these Nazis to fucking answer the phone
Did
call.
Did you hear
from
the
noise
he made with it too?
Did he do like a?
No, it's like a noise. It's like a dolphin, like a insane unhinged. Unhinged is probably the best word. Weird and unhinged. And honestly, I think this boils back to our original conversation with fact checking and shit like that. Dims, like Dims of the far left, all the left. Anytime you see misinformation, you just need to call it out. Like, honestly, that is going to be the best community notes ever. Is the second you see it, don't just go, oh well, blah blah blah. Might start an argument. This is what got us here in the first place, is just being very docile. Like most of us, when Trump won the first time, his whole base, they were loud and they were really shitty on social media. And most of us left social media. Most of us stopped, having those arguments, whatever. And then we tried to do that whole thing. Well, we can disagree politically and all, blah, 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 and still be friends. No, you are not friends with them right now until they like get their shit together. Because that's how it is. You wouldn't invite Hitler to come sit at your dinner table. You wouldn't feed him your food. You tell him to get fucked. And unfortunately, that is where we're at right now. They are rejoicing. They are rejoicing. And here's the deal. My whole thing with them is this. If they really truly, because they said it after January 6th, they're like, oh, wow, Trump is so bad, I'm never going to vote for him. Well, guess what they did? They went, and when it came to push and shove and they had two options, they went, oh, shit. It was never about the fucking eggs. It was, they're fucking lying. Once again, that is a shield so they don't say the truth. When they got to the damn polls,
Democrat.
Yeah, they could not hold their nose and circle that Democrat. They could not skip it. So they went, oh God, I'm going to have to do it. And then they
Marjorie
thought, I'm the only one.
Party of pedophiles.
Yeah, well, what it was is like, well, it made them feel good. Going, well, I must be the only one. Everyone else said they're not going to do it. And come to find out, they all did it. And they were like, oh shit. It was the eggs. It was prices at the thing because they didn't want to say their truth. They did not want to say the truth out loud. And it had nothing to do with it. They picked everything apart on it's Kamala's fault. She didn't get us, blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And the truth was they just could not circle in the Democrat. They just couldn't. And it was more biased than anything else. And
it goes back to the right-wing media sphere too, right? They are so pervasive, and it's fucking everywhere. And even like your legacy media is getting owned by like right-leaning millionaires at this point, right? I think a couple of the big media outlets, I'd have to look it up. That'll maybe be another episode, but I think a few of them were bought by maybe not as far right, but certainly right aligned ideologically. In other words, give all the money to corporations, and one day maybe they'll give you a bonus like 0.25% of your fucking daily income, the case may be. Even all these outlets that Trump is constantly saying, oh, they're fucking leftists, they're fucking biased leftists, I hate them, blah, 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 blah. Even those outlets are centrist, essentially, at this point. They spent the entire lead up to the election saying Washington. Nobody took him to task for anything. And then even when he did these softball fucking podcasts, like on Joe Rogan, the thing that pisses me off the most, he goes on Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan, to his credit, you keep saying that the election was stolen. And like, where's the evidence? Oh, I'll show it to you. Like, when? Like, are you ever going to show the fucking evidence? And he never has. The man is in office now, has all the levers of power, has the entire government behind him. He's got the House, he's got the Senate, he's got the Supreme Court, he's got all these fucking federal and district judges. You would think that if he has all this fucking evidence about this stolen election, that all the courts said you don't have standing to do this, blah, 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 you would think that by now, can't we see a fucking shred of evidence that this election was supposedly stolen?
Yeah, he that would have been the first fucking thing he would have done. Like if it truly 100% was, it is literally like day one, he would have been like, see, when he undid the Kennedy files and all this other stuff, 100% would have said, and here's my redemption song. See, fuck all you guys. Like, I know I would have. And in the fact that he is still like, 32 days in, and he's done all this other stuff and like he doesn't talk about it anymore. Absolutely. He just won't say he lost because he has an issue with that. And
he's a fucking loser. That's why. Like, he can't handle it. You can't believe I lost. Fucking blows my mind. And the thing is, he's leaning on this too big to rig shit. If I'm not mistaken, I'll pull up the exact numbers, but more people voted in 2020 than voted in 2020. So, like, fucking too big to rig? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, more fucking people voted. Like, shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a different climate back then. People were at home because of COVID, so yeah, they could. People don't understand, like the everyday working person, like look at what our government's going through right now, and this is exactly, and we said this in the last episode, this is exactly how CEOs run their businesses. They run it on a shoestring. They consistently fire people. You have to plan your days off like in advance, and then you have to be very careful about how many, because Lord knows you don't want to take too many and be a super negative compared to Jan over there across the way in the cubicle, and so your name doesn't show up on the next layoff and stuff like that. So people, they just gonna get into this drone and they're like, oh, everybody else will vote. I've got this deadline I've got to meet, and that's what they do. They make it hard to get out to do and exercise your rights. So guess who does get to go? All these people who are retired and they have nothing better to do. And most of them, even though it doesn't benefit them in any capacity, and this is something, talk to people who are older about, I'm like, I get it. You're conservative now that you're older because obviously you live on a set budget. So yes, you are very more conservative. You have a conservative mindset when it comes to being, fiscally responsible and stuff like that. However, you're towards the end of your life. You only got maybe another 10, 15 years, and you are living off social programs to survive the next 10 to 15 years. Stop voting in out of your pockets. Vote in the best interest of the next generation.
Yeah.
Because that's what you should be doing at 65, 70. You should no longer be voting for how you think, like pre-retirement, how you're saving up, making sure you can last and stuff like that. You should be quite liberal by that age because, yes, you do want to have extra money and all these discounts and not have to come out of pocket for extra insurance and having to pay because you're more prone to disease and stuff like that. So now you're on several medications, having to come out several $100s a month for your medications. You would think that they would be in the mindset of, oh shit, let me be more social, let me be a little bit more, progressive and liberal at this age. You would really think the conservatives would be more like between 25 and 50 when they're buying a home, when they have the biggest expenses and stuff like that. And it's so upside down to me on how the vast majority of people who vote, and have the opportunity to vote, they're so conservative. And I don't get it. I don't think we teach government or economics enough for at a consistent rate. And it is good to see younger people in politics now, because normally you wouldn't see people in politics until like their 50s and 60s. It is good to see a younger crowd, like the AOCs, the Jasmine Crockett's. And honestly, everyone, when we talk about like the Dems, the Dem leadership and stuff like that, there is a group that is not included in that. And when we talk about like the Dem leadership, that is like your Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, who really needs to find his dick in balls, like go find out like where they're hidden and grow a pair and not do this defeatism and be like, when people wake up, they're going to realize we don't control. No, but you can do something. You can do anything, Hakeem. Anything, Mr. Jeffries. Please. Like, stall. Go out there and do a chicken dance in the middle of the damn floor. I don't care. Act a fool. We have got you, boo-boo. Just do something.
Mitch McConnell blocked legislation for years. You wouldn't ever hear that crusty fuck say anything about, well, they got too much power. Oh, bother. No, he fucking just instruct the shit out of people and be like, I'm not gonna let you do a goddamn thing.
Like,
and he did.
Yeah. Do what you gotta do. He's
literally the reason our Supreme Court is completely fucked for the next couple of decades.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then I think, we were talking about Elon earlier and kind of just somehow how he's such a megalomaniac and what he's doing on Twitter with Grimes and everything else. And the weird things that are happening at CPAC, it's just becoming more unhinged and more weird every day. And I'm not even like clutching my pearls about it anymore. I am truly very concerned that they really aren't listening to anything that's being said to them, like the court rulings and stuff like that. Like, I believe they're still in, am I wrong about that? They're still in, like, they haven't followed anything that's come down.
No, they haven't. It's, well, you'll hear different people call it different things. I do think we are very much on the precipice of a constitutional crisis. You'll hear different opinions on that. But yeah, I think it's safe to say we are very close to one, if not in one already.
Would say we're probably in one right now. I mean, our constitutional rights are being absolutely trampled. They just are. Like, there's no bones about it, and they are absolutely just coming in, and then they're trying to rewrite history with it. They're trying to say Doge isn't firing anyone. Yes, they are.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They may make the supervisors do it, but that direction is coming from Doge.
Yeah, there was actually an article today, and I think Elon confirmed it on Twitter later, but Trump said they're going to make everybody, they're all going to get an email, and it was going to ask them to justify their job and what they did last week, and failure to answer was going to be seen as a resignation. So yeah, they're firing people. Whether they can or not, that's still kind of up in the air. Some judges seem to be waffling on stuff, but there's so much, it's getting really difficult to keep track of. There's a number of lawsuits out of California, I think, a couple more, but it's a scary situation because these cities where these workers are getting laid off, these federal workers, there was a story the other day that they do not have enough jobs to accommodate the mass amount of federal workers being laid off.
There's not enough jobs now. I don't know what people are talking about. I get where they're like, oh, the economy and unemployment's down and blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you what, that's not it. Like, and that's where the working class was getting really upset. Yeah, what happens is that you are unemployed for like 3 or 4 months. You finally get a job. You go through all these ghost interviews or these ghost jobs on Indeed. A lot of them out there. You may get 5 or 6 interviews here, 5 or 6 interviews there. They're not actually hiring for those positions. And then you finally do get one and you're there for a few months and then you get laid off again. And it's rinse and repeat in this emotional roller coaster. So one, there's not enough jobs out there right now for like the corporate America people who've been in this weird looping thing since 2020 when COVID first hit, because that's when the first big rounds of layoffs happened. And they're like, oh, crap, we can do business online. And everybody got rehired and then laid off again. And it's like it's been this weird, vicious cycle for the past, 4 or 5 years. And and now you have an influx of all these people. Like, that's just more to compete with jobs that don't exist.
Yeah, that's incredibly concerning. I got in a conversation I fucking hate doing this, but I got in a conversation with somebody on Facebook the other day, which is the absolute fucking dumbest thing I can do, because people just have their head at their ass. They don't quite understand how this stuff
But
works.
that's what we got to do. This is what we said earlier. This is it. Do not shy away from social media. Don't let them bully you out of your spaces. Get out there, be loud and proud, lefties. Like, get out there, fact check the shit out of them, and do your due diligence on calling it, and be correct. Be correct, because they don't want to argue with you when you got facts, but that's all you can do,
It's true. And I find it best, like, I leverage AI a lot to explain stuff to people. I'll do summaries of bills and I'll fucking explain to people, because, like, people want to read that shit. It's long, it's confusing, there's a lot of legal shit in there. It's boring as fuck. They use a lot of fucking words like where to for and all that shit. Nobody fucking wants to sit there and read that shit. Like, if you wanted to sit there and read that shit, you need to be an attorney or you'd be in politics. I read it because I'm bored and I'm curious about what's happening. But I will read the bill and then I'll get AI to summarize it, and then I will put it on Facebook for people to see. And I'm like, look, they're fucking. That's exactly what they're doing. Here's where the bill says there's $880 million in cuts on the table for Medicaid to pay for these fucking tax cuts for these fucking parasitic billionaires who don't give a fuck if you live or die. And they're like, that's not true. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah. It's what I was talking about earlier. It is literally like they are aggressively, purposely, anything that they feel will rock their core tenets and make them do any type of like introspect, like may change their perception. It's
Well,
like they just instantly like nope, and like freeze and like walk away.
That's exactly it. They would have to admit they were wrong. They would have to admit that these people that they put so much effort into, and all these fucking Trump flags and shit, and all these fucking MAGA hats that they're spending their fucking hard-earned money on, they don't give a fuck about you. And if you've been, watching Fox and Friends, and your best chum, Jesse Waters, is telling you that Democrats are full of shit and Republicans love you, if you've been watching that stuff for 10, 15, 20 years, it's a fucking hard thing to admit. It's literally like they're fucking brainwashed at this point, because they're not taking the time to critically think about the stuff that they're reading.
Honestly, I don't even think they care. I think that's it. I think they enjoy being just hateful people. I do. I think
they'll care when it starts to hurt, because you and I both talked about. But it'll be
more of like they're more worried that it affected them than the actual like it affected anybody else. They are very those very self-centered people that just. They like the fact that they can be as nasty and mean as they want to be. Like, no one's going to, like, they don't have to, like, think about, like, their actions and how it affects other people. And, like, fuck them. I just want to be able to say what I want to say. And if you say something to me, then I'm going to go, what do you mean? What do you mean?
There's the suburban white kids who are like, well, why can't I say it? They can say it. Well, fucking think about it for a second. Like, pull your head out of your ass and think about what it means for you to say it, as opposed for them to fucking say it, and really ask yourself that question.
Yeah.
Like fucking get your head out of your ass for just a fucking minute.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, the suburban white kid, why can't I say the N-word? Well, because that's not you. Like don't do it. It's not nice. Like stop it. But they don't want to have that type of self-reflection, and that's what it gives them. But if they start to realize, oh, this is the bad side. Oh, those are bad feelings. I shouldn't have those. Just like, they're like, no, I want to have him. And I think that's where most of them, like I said, was never about eggs. It's never about pro-choice. It's never about these things. It is about their selfishness. And most of these people are very controlling people anyway. They want to control everything and everyone. And it gives them this pseudo control. And they don't care what they're controlling. It's the fact that they do get control. And it's, they don't like someone telling them, hey, you cannot say that correctly. But you know what? Like I think it's hilarious anytime I see someone, and I don't like dead naming. I don't like making light of trans issues, trans the trans community matters. They are visible. We see them, like Lady Gaga get up and saying what she said. That was beautiful. Like we do, like their lives matter, and no one should ever feel, like their story and who they are is being used or weaponized. That's not the purpose. But I do find it very ironic when, there was a lady who called in, I think it was some type of city council or whatever. And the man talking, she's like, ma'am. And he's like, I'm not a ma'am. And she's like, I'm sorry, you guys just voted where you cannot compel me to use your pronouns. So that's what you guys voted for. And he's like, well, my pronoun is, I forgot what it was, like council member or something like that. And she's like, you guys just voted. You cannot compel me to use any pronouns. That is a pronoun. And you could almost see like the line across his head, like it tried like a heartbeat monitor where it went for a second and then it went shit and like went again because he could not accept that he was forcing that upon her. What other people wanted was just general respect. It wasn't about a him, her, chair, whatever, or somebody's identity. It was about respect. And he couldn't say that. You could almost see his mouth starting to form. You're being disrespectful. And he caught himself. That was that blip moment. And then his brain went, and kind of stopped. But that's it. Like it's about respect. And I do find the irony in that very humorous of like, oh, when it comes to you and somebody, misidentifies your pronoun, all of a sudden it's a problem. It's a problem. I do try to stay very cognizant of, how much damage that may end up causing the trans community. And we should give them a voice on, when enough is enough, because it shouldn't become very normalized to mislabel somebody, especially their pronouns. If they've made it very clear, we should be respecting of that. However, the irony is in there that this is how you confront somebody, is you show them how bad it hurts. And then they have to hurt. And then just kind of trying to find that fine line and stuff like that there. So I do find the humor in it. But then, I take a step back and I'm like, that one's a hard one to swallow just because the trans community is so small as it is. And their rights have just been, that was one of the first swipes they made, outside of attacking the Black community with removing, a lot of the DEI and stuff that was originally, propped up outside of white women benefiting it from it the most, really was meant to make sure that everybody was included, people of color, and that anti-discriminatory processes were really, there was a better path towards policies and tool sets available to companies to ensure that they were always getting all qualified candidates and stuff like that. So just the irony in what they're going through right now and people, having to hurt so much. Yeah, I don't think much is going to change the everyday MAGA, because even still, like listening to some of their sob stories online, it's all me, 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 me. I'm one of the good ones. I come into the office. I don't know why. They're pretty much insinuating like, cannot believe I'm one of the ones got laid off. I expected them to come with a fine-tooth comb and get the bad ones. The ones who don't have to come into the office.
I genuinely think this is why educating people around legislation is important, because it's hard to argue. Like, my shit pulls directly from Congress. Like, you can't fucking fudge that stuff. Like, Nancy Mace can't lie about a vote when it's coming directly from Congress's database, wherever that gets fucking implemented. I'm pretty sure it was Elon's fault, but I digress. I think it's important to explain legislation so people know what their elected representatives are voting for. And when you see, like, by and large, your representatives on the Republican side are shooting down stuff that would vastly improve your standard of living, constantly voting it down, that's the kind of stuff I think is going to hit home for people. Because, again, this all ties back to disinformation. It's like, oh, Democrats just want to spend everybody's money, blah, 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 blah. Well, Republicans are trying to fucking cut corporate tax rates to 15%, which brings their effective tax rate down to like fucking 8%.
Our government is not meant to be like a bank or a savings account. It is meant to take that money and repurpose it back out to us. It is.
Exactly. Exactly. It works for the people, not the 1% of people. That's what I think people need pointed out. And that's why I've been so pissed off with like right wing talk radio and fucking Fox News and OANN, Newsmax, all that shit, because this punching down on marginalized communities so that you don't pay attention to who's paying our politicians and who's writing policy, who's paying for policy to be written. These fucking billionaires are bleeding us dry. And they're not going to fucking stop until we fucking do something about it.
Yeah.
But before we can do something about it, we need to get buy-in from these fucking assholes who keep voting them in because they're not fucking paying attention.
Yeah. And I think too, like when we talk about that, it's not just understanding what's being done. It's more of like a socioeconomic kind of class that people should be, like part of, especially like, and I would even say they start it more in line with, like middle school age, talking about your communities and what it takes and local politics and stuff like that, what it takes to actually run a city, a town, and from big to small, and really kind of understand what those inner workings look like, what the tax dollars are actually supposed to go and do, and how that's done, and how that actually rolls up federally and then comes down. Because I guarantee most people in most red states don't realize how much their red state is subsidized. So like the school systems, when this class has a limit on it and can't have more than 22 kids, 25 kids, that's subsidized by the government, by the federal government to keep those classes small. That's not just something they do. That is something that they, because they have to have more money for more teachers, more facilities and stuff like that. That is stuff there that comes from the federal government. They cut the education plan. Guess what happens? Back when I went to school, we had 32, 35 kids in a class. And there was like, we were like literally like crammed in these small rooms like sardines. And there was desks just lined up everywhere. Now, kids, there's maybe like 18 kids in a room. And it's so much different. And they've got so much space, and there are these table, like these desks, bigger desks that are kind of shoved, like in like little groups and stuff. And it's just the environment is completely different, and it's so much more relaxed, and they learn so much more because the teacher doesn't have an extra, like almost double the class.
Yeah.
And this is the find out phase, especially for these poorer areas where either there's not going to be a school, or their schools are going to be like, they're going to be crammed back into a one room school with 3 or 4 grades because they have like 2 teachers for like 50, 60 kids.
Down in their hospitals, a lot of these hospitals in rural areas, it's the only hospital they have, and it gets most of its revenue from Medicaid funding. And when these cuts go through, those hospitals are either going to have to drastically reduce their number of staff, or they're just going to have to shut down.
Yeah, like it's
a hospital's still a business. As much as I hate to say it, they're still for profit, and if there's no fucking profit, guess what happens?
Yeah, absolutely.
Same thing that happens to every other fucking for-profit business. They shut down.
Yeah. I mean, it amazes me that most people don't know these things. And these should be those very basic things. Like this is the kind of stuff that they should be teaching in school, along with this. And I believe parents have a level of responsibility to keeping their kids in tune. Even, you don't have to go into full politics, but there are some things there. But I would say like most of it needs to be very bipartisan. It needs to be very kind of factual. Like, hey, did you know that, our school, here's the money that comes into it. This comes from the federal government, and this is how we use it. There's not 30 kids in this classroom. We only have, 20 at the most. And we do this so you guys have a better education. And I think that way, they see the tax dollars in work. Like, what are the benefits? I don't have to compete with 12 other students for my teacher's attention. I get more one-on-one time with my teacher, and they get to see it like in real working time on what those benefits are. And it becomes very factual. And then people, as they grow older, they understand, oh, wow, well, those, as Elon's and his idiot team and Trump are just in there with like Miley Cyrus on that fucking wrecking ball, and they're tearing stuff down. They are more apt to look at something and go, yeah, no, we don't want to tear that down, because you know what? Like, my school was heavily, subsidized by the federal government, and there's still a bunch of kids going there, and they do that. They're not going to have the same quality of education. And it
Nope.
would make them stop and realize that it's not wasteful spending. It is the taxes that they pay going back to the same communities that they're in, that social economic responsibility, that being economically conscious and socially conscious of the community you live in. Like, can we go back full circle in this conversation? And that's what they should be teaching kids. That's what they should be really kind of focused on. Outside of just government history, history's great. There needs to be a side of it that kind of goes into all this.
Yep. Otherwise, it's up to us and podcasts and YouTube to fucking get these people to understand what the fuck is actually happening.
Man. And then you have Nick Fuentes, who's like, hey, I think I'm the Nazi and it's getting a little too Nazi in here for me.
Right? Like, I didn't have Nick Fuentes says this Nazi shit's too Nazi for me on my 2025 bingo card. Like,
Man,
that was,
yeah.
like,
I
that
know,
was extreme even for me. I'm like, when you're too extreme for Nick Fuentes, you've lost the fucking.
Yeah, I know. I saw that and I was like, wow. Because he's like, what do you say? Our supreme leader, Yi. I've written
Yeah, he
not
wrote
the
policy
Hitler
for Supreme Leader Yi.
I'm like, wow. And he's essentially coming out and saying, yes, I know I'm a horrible little Nazi and I enjoy that philosophy, but this was even way too much for me. And
Yeah,
that
he's like,
speaks
there's
volumes.
Nazis and there's whatever the fuck you guys are doing.
Yeah.
That was definitely not on my 2025 bingo card.
But I mean, this goes back, and people do need to become educated, and there's a lot going on, but there's definitely some reality things that people need to be aware of. If you have not taken the time to look up who Calvin, is it Curtis Yarvin?
Curtis Yarvin, yeah.
Curtis Yarvin. Look him up and Curtis Yarvin and look him up and look and see actually what his ideology is, because that's what the people at the Heritage Foundation like subscribe to. That's what, and Eka Sperry can go kick fucking rock. She's so damn dumb and so stupid on her take and her double down of it. There was no alternative thing, or Trump's never had policies. He's never had anything. It was always this dark enlightenment shit. The Project 2025 is just a reskinned kind of Christian kind of evangelist like take on dark enlightenment, but it's all dark enlightenment. That's all it is. No matter how you slice it, whether you want to say, oh, Trump's version of it, all this, it's all the same like footpath. And they all get there. And then, they say they don't want to be compared to the Nazi Party, but they are. I mean, if you look at the Nazi Party and look at Hitler, they weren't a unified, like, one party. Like, they really weren't. That was like the umbrella was and I think that's where MAGA is kind of like that umbrella, like the Nazi Party was. But you had all these, like, different groups. I think there was, like, 4 different ones inside the Nazi Party? And each one had its, like, different ideology, essentially. But it was ultimately almost the same thing, just a different spin and different like approach, but same path forward. And I think we're kind of seeing that here between like Curtis Yarvin, his Dark Enlightenment, Project 2025, and you have this kind of these different like MAGA is kind of its own thing, and it's all underneath that Trump umbrella and everything else. And that's where they have some infighting, but they also have like their own purview to kind of causes chaos and do whatever they want and everything. But get involved with it because it's some nasty stuff. And there's a reason why we're calling the Nazis outside of the Sieg Heils and some of the mean shit that Elon's doing is there are correlations there. Everything we're seeing, there's a lot of correlation and there's what that man wrote was just, it's disgusting. It's saying people essentially advocating for Soylent Green. People who are unproductive. So elderly, sick, mentally disabled, physically disabled, like all these people. And I hate to tell them, the basement dwelling chicken tender eaters, the groypers, you guys would be considered unproductive. You're not productive. You would be made into Soylent Green. And that is what Curtis Yarvin wants. He wants people to be, either worked to death and used as a tool, and then once you are useless, discarded, or you're part of the uber elite, and that's it. And there's only so many, in that fine line in this dystopian future, and they're doing everything they possibly can to get it done. And if you are new to this, like, yeah, it's scary. Just take your time with it. There's a lot of material out there. I know I've been working on a project to like gather up a bunch of different resources and everything, especially like political tools and stuff like that. But take the time, really get into it and read through it, and go look at like the Nazi Party and you know how it was made up, what the different factions of it were, what their different goals were, and then take a look at, the different factions within inside of this like Trump MAGA umbrella, and look and see like how they're starting to infight and stuff like that. And you will start to see like, oh crap. Like it is literally a copy of what we're almost 100 years later. It's such a shame. Just 100 years later, we're repeating history, and it's so gross.
Yeah, because humans as a whole are fucking stupid. It's unfortunate, but we refuse to learn from history. I think I was reading something the other day. Somebody made a good point. Like we were healthy for too long because of vaccines. We kicked the shit out of the Nazis, so we've been too safe for too long. And people have just memory hold everything. They're like, oh, what the fuck is polio? Like that game that you play in the water where you swim and smack a ball? Like, no, it's fucking polio. You
Yeah.
get an iron lung. You get
And
paralyzed slowly.
We have people who are still alive that were affected by it. I think
They're
what in the
still
last
in an iron lung.
yeah.
I think that guy died, sadly. I think he finally passed away.
I think he passed away like 10 years ago. Yeah. But it's been recent. Like, it's not like it was like 20, 30 years ago. Like the polio, like that was bad. And it just.
And Mitch McConnell, it's one of the reasons he wouldn't confirm Bobby Kennedy. And one of his only fucking good deeds in history was he had fucking polio.
Yeah, I'm hoping that whatever weird cartilage backbone that seems to be somewhat cropping up, and everyone, like, even if you have a Republican senator or congressperson, still pick up the phone and call them. Heat is heat. Their phones are blowing up. Everybody does something. I made a post the other day. It was like, almost 75 million people voted for Kamala. If everybody every day did something to resist, did not obey in advance, that is 75 million actions every day. That is overwhelming, and that's how we will win and how we will keep them, as we will overwhelm them. You just got to do something small every day. Write an email to your senator or congressperson. Choose to spend your money wisely. Stop doing it for convenience. I get it. Or minimize as much as you can. I understand that's not an option for every single person, but really look and see where you spend your money, and we're not saying cut off like your Prime TV or anything else like that. If you've already paid your subscription, enjoy it. That's not the ask. But if you can cut off getting something from Amazon and buy it locally, do that. If you can switch your membership to something that is not, then do that. And you would be amazed. I mean, look at Target's like riding the struggle bus right now. And they're getting sued now because of their stakeholders that invested in everything else are holding them responsible for that.
It's the dreaded fiduciary responsibility that they all hate to acknowledge.
Exactly. And so this is that pain that we can continually cause them. Like, never feel like, well, I'm just one person, 70 death by paper cut. They will bleed out. They will. And it'll make it just as painful, twice as painful for those MAGAs than you not doing anything. And that's why I tell people, always do something and wake up and choose violence every fucking day. Like right now, wake up and choose violence. And your violence is, I'm going to do something actionable today. It may be small, it may be big, but I'm going to do something that is going to cause them some frustration. I'm not going to give them peace. I'm not going to give them rest today. I'm going to get up and do this. And that will help you too, because you can always do something. And little tiny things every day, 75 million people did it, would compound the hurt. And there's a lot of things. There's a national strike that's going on, and all that. And guys, you can find us on Blue Sky. It's the Filibusted. .bluesky.app, and you just look for that. You'll find us, and I'm going to start posting them up soon. Just different tool sets that I'm going to come across. I'm trying to gather up all these great links that I'm seeing on the app being shared. I go and I take a look at them. I give them a little battle test. I'm also trying to find as many resources as I can, podcasts that are addressing these things, trying to provide good information, trying to get you motivated into taking some actionable things. What can you do so you don't sit back and worry? Because that's the biggest thing is don't let them defeat you. Even if it's just a fact check once a day, go fact check somebody. Like if you do something small every day, it just adds up and it does help the movement. And then this is just something that's going to require all of us. Everybody's got to do something.
Yep. And I think with that, we are out of time. Once again, we've drifted off topic, but that's okay. We have good stuff. And I think we started bitching about billionaires again, which I am always in favor of. I will never turn down a good eat the rich moment. So I think that's all the time we have for today. Obviously, community notes problematic. Elon hates them, so that means I must love them, I think, because I hate everything that he loves. I guess. I don't know. Something like that, or other way around. I don't know. But I think that's all for tonight. So you guys take care of yourselves. Stay vigilant. Keep resisting. Call your representatives. Call them dirty pieces of shit if you have to. Nothing's off the table.
Yep. Absolutely. You guys have a wonderful night.
Yep. We'll see you guys next time.